We've got snow coming to the United States. Also, a little bit of thunderstorms as well coming down into the southeast, mainly also some in the central plains as well. And we also got temperature changes coming, starting off with some warmer temperatures down there in the southeast with some colder air filtering on the backside for the Ohio Valley. All of that and more in today's forecast. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. All right, starting off with the snow that is going to be possible across the United States. Pushing this forward, I can see a low pressure system popping up over there near Oklahoma and Kansas, pushing up to the north and east. We got to watch out for some icing problems up here in Iowa and also into southern Minnesota. And take a look back over here near the west coast. We have an area of some spin out there. That's another low pressure system that's eventually going to eject off to the north and east, bringing another storm system with the potential for some thunderstorms and maybe even a little bit of severe weather as well. As I push this forward in time, you can see that freezing rain and ice turns into mostly snow there in northeastern Iowa going into Wisconsin, and then eventually that kind of dissipates. Maybe a little bit of snow up there in northern Michigan as well, and then mainly some rain spreading off to the east into the northeast for areas like Pennsylvania, also maybe Massachusetts, Connecticut as well before that fizzles out. The next storm behind it, which we were talking about just a moment ago, if we go back in time, you can see how that low pressure kind of skirts across the Rockies and then pushes up into the northern plains. That could bring in some more moisture and the potential for some thunderstorms and maybe a couple of isolated spots for severe weather down there in the southeast going up into the Ohio Valley. And then after this storm kind of moves out, I mean, we're really not talking about too much additional snowfall with that, maybe some scant snow signals on the backside. But one of the things that I'm really keeping my eye on is going to be this guy right down in here, a little bit of moisture kind of pushing into the southern United States, and then eventually on the backside of this storm it could try to push up into some colder air, bringing some snow maybe a little bit further south than what we have been seeing, and that could make it almost all the way to the coast. So a little bit of question marks here. This is probably going to change a lot as we go into the future, but overall this storm is looking like maybe our next potential decent snowmaker. But again, you know, given the fact that we are looking about a week into the future here, a lot of things can change. So just know a lot of people are going to be talking about this storm, but there's going to be uncertainty with this until probably another 3 to 4 days. So in terms of ice accumulation with this next storm, we could be actually talking about a pretty significant situation here. You know, getting into these tenths of an inch, not really too big of a deal, but once you get into the half an inch range, you got to be watching out for a lot of ice accumulation on those power lines and also on the trees as well. You get some branches snaps and that could fall on a power line. And the thing that's really going to be pushing that over the top is going to be the winds with this storm. So if we do have a combination of winds here, let's go check that out. Yeah, I mean, when this storm starts to push through, you can see that we do have some 20 to 30 mile per hour winds possible in this region as well. So we're definitely looking at the potential for some tree limbs snapping, some power lines falling here. We could definitely get a couple of power outages, and it might be out until we get another warm up in this region, as it is going to be difficult to travel with half an inch of ice. Just imagine, I mean, that's about that much ice over the road. So it's going to take a little bit for that to melt away. Definitely a little bit of an interesting situation developing here. In terms of snowfall with this next storm, we're going to be looking out for a couple of inches to maybe even at some isolated spots of 6 inches of snow being possible up there in northeastern Iowa, going into parts of Wisconsin, maybe also up into the UP of Michigan as well. Still a lot of snowfall to come, but honestly, this is going to be probably a pretty weak system. Although folks up there in northern Iowa and southwestern Wisconsin are definitely going to be having a little bit of fun with this. I mean, it's definitely going to be enough to maybe build a decent sized snowman. So it's not going to be like a foot of snow or anything, but you know, something to watch out for, especially with those ice conditions. Could get some decent travel restrictions happening here. So make sure you have a little bit of extra supplies to deal with that. Also, some snow is going to be expected up here in Massachusetts. Did I just say Massachusetts? That's freaking Minnesota. Jeez Louise. It's so funny. You know, sometimes I wake up and my brain is like good to go, hitting all the points really good. But then sometimes I wake up, my brain just don't function. I don't know what's wrong with it. And then maybe a little bit of snow could be accumulating up here in northern Michigan as well. But again, pretty hard to tell whether or not that's really going to stick around for too long, because there is going to be some rain and some warmer air filtering kind of behind some of the snow that could potentially fall here. So I'm not really too confident about really any accumulation up here in Michigan, but can't rule out maybe a dusting, a little bit of snowflakes on some colder surfaces, and then also the grass as well. In terms of the Northeast, over the next couple of days, we could be still seeing a little bit of snow up there in the Appalachian Mountains, and then also up here in northern Pennsylvania, and still a little bit of a continuation here of maybe another couple of inches to 8 inches of snow. They're just south of Watertown in New York due to the lake effect snow. And then further down to the southeast, could see a little bit of snow accumulation over there in southern New York. Now, in terms of the chances for some lightning and also some thunderstorms, could be seeing, a couple of shots here going into the afternoon today. And then that's going to kind of move down to the south and east towards northeastern Texas, also going into Louisiana as well. And then as we push this into Sunday morning, we could potentially be seeing some areas of some thunderstorms and maybe some small chances of severe weather going into Louisiana and Mississippi. Then our instability kind of disappears, and then the atmosphere kind of recharges here for the 16th, where we could be seeing even more thunderstorms and a little bit of a higher probability for severe weather as we go into Monday. And that's going to push down to the south and east through Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, Texas, going down into Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe even also northern Alabama as well, before that instability really starts to wane as we go into Tuesday morning and Tuesday afternoon. And then eventually might see some more storms pop up there in Mississippi and Alabama, going into Arkansas, Louisiana, and kind of eastern Texas again. In terms of the SPC outlook for the next couple of days, we're not really seeing anything too crazy, just some general thunderstorms possible. But again, that main area that we're watching for severe weather is going to come on the 16th. So it would technically be day 4, which we haven't really gotten any designations for that day just yet, which is normal. Typically with the SPC, unless it's like a really dangerous, high confidence event, we typically don't get, slight risks issued for day 4. Usually they come in on day 3. So a marginal or slight risk is definitely possible with this next storm system. All right, now in terms of the temperatures across the United States, or at least what it's going to feel like with some of the winds that we're going to be experiencing with this storm, we could be seeing a decent warm up. That's kind of the first thing that kind of sticks out to me. It's still going to be pretty cold up there in the Great Lakes and the northern plains, also going into the Ohio Valley, but that should warm up as we get this system to organize and bring up a little bit warmer air into the Ohio Valley. We're talking about 30s, 40s, 50s all the way down there in the southeast, and eventually that surges a little bit further up to the north. That wind chill is going to keep things relatively cool across the area. It's not until we get into Monday afternoon where we really see a pretty significant warm up here, potentially getting up into the 50s there into Ohio, parts of Indiana. Also, eventually, as that moves off to the north and east, we could see some temperature surge up to 50 degrees going into Tuesday afternoon with, all the way up there near Massachusetts, going into Rhode Island, Connecticut. New Jersey could be getting in on those 50-degree temperatures, and then 60 to 70-degree temperatures going to the south of that, with the northern Mississippi and Alabama getting in those 50s. The southern plains getting in those 60s and 70s, maybe 50s over there in Ohio. Still relatively cool up in the northern plains, some negative temperatures still hanging around for North Dakota. And then in the West Coast, we're still seeing some cooler temperatures in the higher elevation and some warmer temperatures as you get along the coast here of California, Oregon, and Washington. Overall, I'm not really seeing the weather being super impactful. I think the most significant event that we'll probably see is either going to be that severe weather or those icing and power outage conditions over there in Iowa. So just make sure you're weather aware for those kind of things. A little bit of snow is coming, but nothing too crazy. So definitely still kind of in a quiet period, but I do appreciate you guys still continuing to come in and check in on the forecast for the future. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe as well if you want future forecasts, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.